So what we're going to do this afternoon is do a little vibe coding, but before I do that, I just want to share with you a couple of things. We had some questions about like, should I be using ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or Copilot, etc. The popular kid of the month right now is, who knows who the popular kid is? Claude. So everyone's using Claude?
Yeah.
Who's not using Claude? Okay. Well, no, that's the, come on. Can someone who's an advanced Claude user articulate why? What is the appeal of Claude? Isn't it just another chatbot? Doesn't it look the same?
For what I use Claude for, Claude seems to be the best spoken. Like it speaks most naturally and authentically. When I use it to like describe things, it describes much better than other bots do.
Right, and it's less of the typical, it is this, it is not this.
Yeah.
Contrast reversalization. Yes?
Claude was trained on books, not the internet.
Yes, that is true.
Cowork.
Cowork. Who said that? So tell us about Cowork. What is Claude Cowork for someone who doesn't know Claude or Claude Cowork?
Claude Cowork is a hook into your computer that allows your computer to actually do more work for you while you go and do other things. Also, it allows you to code while you're doing other things. Also, it basically can control your computer and close it off. Provided that you close it off.
Yeah. So a different way to say that, I think, is some of the power that you might have been hearing about Claude is Claude can do amazing coding development. So there's this thing called Claude Code, which is totally nerdy stuff. You can do stuff in the terminal. It's just super powerful. However, they built a filter or a lens, a translator called Cowork. It's like one step removed, where you don't actually have to get your hands messy. And it's kind of like a translator where you can just talk to it as if you talk to regular ChatGPT or Claude Chat, and it'll actually do stuff. It can control your mouse, your keyboard, your computer, organize your files, and all that kind of stuff. And so now you have superpowers to do a bunch of stuff. I just want to share with you two things. So this morning, I was sitting up there listening to Chris, who was here for Chris's keynote, great keynote. And so I recorded it on my phone using Granola, which is AI note-taking app. And so I just got the transcript and I copy-pasted it into Claude, just raw. Speaker A, blah, 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 right? And so I just pasted this whole transcript that he said. And then I just gave some more context because it didn't know who it is. And then I said, summarize the talk, make slide one of a carousel super strong, open loop, curiosity-driven hook. And then the call to action is to learn more about NCMS. Here's the URL. So it went off and did its thing, created a carousel, and then created this mock-up of a carousel based on his talk before he even left. And so is the call to action correct? Yes, the call to action is correct. So this is a mock-up of it. And then here are the JPEGs or PNGs that you can download individually. And then you can ask it to write, etc. If you go to my Instagram, so my Instagram is /Kenny Jahng, you will see I'm now trying to evolve the way that I'm doing carousels with Claude. And so it's at this point designing stuff for me and doing things where it can do gradient blends with photography. I'm starting to find other brands and have it mimic their look and feel. So this seems a little bit more designed, hopefully, than the others. And this is the upside of Claude. Claude is able to do things like this. And now you're also seeing a lot of other things. This is what I did in the shower. So these guys put me up in the tower, in the castle, in that circular thing, and it's not a square, the room. And so the shower is oddly shaped, and it's like huge. It's like bigger than this room. It's weird. There's no seating. I mean, you could all lay down and sleep in there. So anyway, I brought my phone into the shower. That was my thing. So I put it on the ledge. and I was dictating to Claude while I was taking a shower, and by the time it came out, it created this carousel, 3.6 billion. Hey, everyone should everyone should click this and like this post. 3.6 billion gamers, one message. The church largely ignores making the case factually with data of just how big the stuff is. Gaming is bigger than Hollywood and the music combined. There's nerd culture everywhere. It's not just games, board games, live streaming, esports, right? 40% of the world calls it a gamer. Few feel welcome to the church. It even gave me attribution for a quote. It quoted me. Traditional model churches open their doors and wait. Nerd culture rarely walks in, not because they reject truth, but because they've never been invited into the right room. So this is what you can do with Claude. ChatGPT is just not there yet with this kind of stuff. This is one of those few things. Okay. So anyway, Claude is the thing that is the soup du jour right now. Claude Cowork is something you're going to hear more and more, and Claude Code is something that is even beyond that. And we're now getting to the point where you have autonomous agents, right? So again, I gave that example of on my calendar. I actually didn't even for this one too. I did it by voice. Here's the reimbursement form. Here's Zach Miller's contact information. So Thursday when I get back to my desk, it's able to do stuff. This is the future. Today what I wanted to do is I wanted to actually get you guys to do some fun things so that by the time you get home, you'll actually have some artifacts of things that you might have produced with AI. So if you actually have a laptop, let's open up to NotebookLM. So people ask, what is that crazy tool that you used? So this is a Google tool called NotebookLM, notebooklm.google.com, notebooklm.google.com. I'm assuming that everyone in this room has a Google account. If not, you can sign up for free. But if you have a Gmail account, this is free for everybody. It does have limitations. There's a freemium model if you have a paid version versus free. But basically what happens is the organization is you create a notebook. This is meant for academics. Like my son is in college. This is meant for like his use case. So what you're doing is each one of these things is a notebook, a binder, like a three-ring binder. Do you remember those things? And that what you're doing is you're opening a notebook based on the topic, and then you're putting all the documents and sources there. Like you're at the library researching, you're photocopying all the papers and things, and you're putting it into a notebook. And so I just happened to create this one notebook, and it is just one file. Actually, it says YouTube, and then the transcript says 2 files on the left-hand side. So if you're in NotebookLM, if everybody's finally in there, I want you to create a notebook, create a new notebook. And when you create a new notebook, it's going to ask for sources. And this is the magic part of Google. Google owns what? YouTube. Google owns what? Google Docs, Google Slides, right? So all those things are easy to just import into anything that you have in your drive. You can bring in here. Anything in YouTube. So now if you see on YouTube, if you're going around YouTube, right? Let's go to Lux's, can't imagine, pastor naming the church after his last name. Let's go to videos. So any given video, right? Like any given video that we have, is that Andy?
Hey, that's on to me.
Okay. What you'll start to see now is that there's a notebook button. There's integration cross platforms. Google is now trying to own the world. And so now what you can do is with the click of the button, you can click and it's going to say, hey, choose a notebook I put it into that's pre-existing or create a new notebook. And that's what I did before. That's how so you basically can take anything. You can take websites, right? And put in a URL. You can take text documents. You can take PDFs. You can put in a whole bunch of stuff. So one of the use cases is to create a second brain. And so let me just see in the past. Here, my Timothy Keller. Has anyone heard of Timothy Keller? Pretty rare, not well-known guy. So what I did is on the left-hand side of the sources, I started importing all of his sermons. Now, on the free version, just to let you know, you have a limitation. I think you only have 300 sources you can put in. Only 300 per notebook. Paid version, you can put in more. Now, for PDFs and other documents, the way around that, when you get to the max, and you will get to the max when you start to use this stuff, is you can combine PDFs together, right? Merge documents together and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, so I started to, create a second brain, because if I want to have some clear theological thinking, I grew up and I worked at Redeemer Presbyterian Church for a little bit. I met my wife there. And so if I want clear thinking, I'm a fan of Tim's thinking, I can go to a second brain and query him. So you want to basically input all the stuff as a source. Now, the thing about this is he talks about all these other topics, right? Tons of topics across 300 sermons. If I wanted him to talk about only one specific thing, anger, I don't know, jealousy, whatever it is, what I could do is I can actually, the beauty of this is you create a binder or notebook, you bring it to the library or your desk, you open the 3 rings, remember, you almost like cut your fingers, you pull the thing together and then pull it apart, and then you only pull out the pages you want to work with. And so it's the same thing here. So you can check box only the sermons that you want to work with. So you can focus on certain things, right? And then the chat is just like ChatGPT or Claude. You can chat here, and it only chats with those documents. Doesn't go off to the internet, doesn't hallucinate with all these other things, doesn't mess around with other people's stuff. Only the documents you check is limited in that chat. This is a very big superpower. So now you can be theologically, sound. You can do it on your own stuff. So many pastors upload all your own sermons, plus whoever your heroes, greats, people that you respect, all the authors, books, etc. you put in there. And now you have the second brain that you can actually consult, right? A board of advisors. So one of the first things that we do with people is like board of advisors. Who is that? Who are the mentors that you want to go after? So get all of their TED Talks, get their books, get their white papers, their blog articles, their podcast interviews, collect them all, put them in here, and then you can start to ask questions and get the perspective. If you have multiple voices in one notebook, sometimes what I will do is I'll say, hey, I want Tim's thinking, I want, whoever's, let's go the other side, Olstein's thinking, right? Right? And then have them discuss and fight out together, and then find where their common ground is and where the edges are, and then give me recommendations. If they were to vote as a group, what would be the top 3 things they recommend soundly for us? So you now have literally a board of advisors that you can go to and get some insights that you never would have made possible. It was just been hard to synthesize all that. So that chat feature is great, and then putting all the stuff is in. So hopefully you should find a sermon or some long form content or a bunch of them and import them. Like, so if you have your own church's stuff, or if you're a fanboy of Mark, put in all Mark's stuff. And then what we'll do is then now what you can do is you can actually chat with it and ask it various things. So a simple thing is a prompt that you might say, hey, provide me a small group discussion guide, right? Or give me a 5-day devotional, or all the same things that you typically would produce in Chat, GPT, Claude, etc. But it's now in a safer environment, it has more context. Okay, that's where we start. On this right-hand side is where the magic happens. There are these preset buttons that you can start to do for different things. So I'm going to go back. Let's go back to Mark's sermon. So the first thing I like to do is, I want to see the logic of a sermon. I just like outline and all that kind of stuff. And so there's a mind map button. And so it will create a mind map that you can then explode and go several levels down and start to explore all the thinking based on a specific piece of work or collection of works, right? And so this, to me, is super helpful, because if you wanted to go down, say, a discipleship journey, now you can actually start to map your topics and figure out where to explore, and then you have backup, cross-references, and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's a great piece. The one that I love is the reports. So here, the study reports is same as everything. There's some presets, but the magic happens in the custom create your own versions. So you can actually create your own version and put a long prompt. So a lot of times I'll jump out of here, go to Claude, say, hey, I want to create this thing, create a structured prompt, come back here, paste it in, and then it will create the actual output for me. But you can see here there's like metaphor analysis, narrative breakdown, spiritual care protocol. There's all these things that you can do. So again, immediately you can create a blog post out of it. There's all these things that you can actually produce. Now, one of the things that I love is the briefing doc. There's two things that in my rant against church websites today is that your sermon archive page is completely built for 10 years ago. We live in a YouTube world where the average view of a video is how long? Is it 40 minutes? No, right? It's 4 minutes. It's not 40 minutes, 50 minutes, right? So why are we expecting someone who's spiritually curious that lands on your site and somehow navigated to your sermon archive page to sit there and watch the whole thing? You should actually have short form video. So all your social media clips that are derivative of your long form content should be there. The other two things that I think that need to be there, especially if you're trying to reach spiritually curious people, people who are not churched, one is a glossary. Why not have a glossary of terms? Because no matter how intentional you are, and I'm giving Mark a lot of crap, but truly he is a very, very good contextualizer and actually is very aware that he's not preaching to the holy huddle, right? He's not preaching to just people who grew up in Sunday school and just all their life in a Christian bubble, right? But yet still there's many times where things creep in. There's these terms that, right, historical references that someone who hasn't read the Bible yet may not really know. And so providing a glossary is really helpful. And so when you go in and see these briefing documents, whoops, that's not the one. You'll see that the briefing documents now starts to build some Q&As and all these other things that you can actually put into it. There's two things. There's the briefing document. Where's the other one? Is it the quiz? I think there's a quiz. There's an FAQ is the second one. So an FAQ and a glossary, I think, belongs on every single sermon archive page. Why not? Why not help the reader? Help them with the win. Why get them to navigate somewhere else? So these two things produce those for you. There's a glossary and there's an FAQ that generates automatically based on the content you put in there, and then you can bring it out. Let's look at the blog post. So this is the blog post based on Mark's sermon. Mark, you preached this. I don't know if you can see.
I don't remember what you said.
Physics of a dying fire. Resignation is not the same as protest. The stranger walking beside you. When victory looks like a dead end. The breath that reignites the ember. The speed of a changed heart. Conclusion. Resigned. Oh, look at this. Right? All these R words. How beautiful. You're a homiletic star. Okay, so this is this type of stuff that Google Notebook is really good for. And then, again, the slide deck is something where it will produce completely done ones or ones that you intended to actually present. So a comprehensive one or a clean presenter slide, short length, default, and then you can prompt it to focus. So I want this slide deck to only focus on the 3 last R's that he talked about, or the 1 point, right? You can go very point by point. So for example, if you wanted to do even like a daily video based on a sermon, there were 5 R's, you can have different slide decks produced for each R. They could be short and sweet. Maybe that's a 90-second slide deck, right? And then you can just narrate it on the video and then ship it. It's a discipleship pathway. There's so many things that you can do with these slide decks. And then the other one is the video overview. The video overview is cinematic explainer, a brief one. It does all the languages. And then again, this was, let me see if there was one that I really thought was cute. And you can prompt it.
Have you ever had that feeling where the passion you once had for something is just gone? You're kind of just staring at a cold pile of ash where a roaring fire used to be. Well, today we're going to dive into a powerful story about how that very same ash might just be hiding an ember ready to be reignited. And this book right here, it just nails it. The idea isn't about some one-and-done rescue. It's about a continuous process of renewal and, as we're about to see, a powerful reignition. So the story we're exploring kicks off with this really potent metaphor. A campfire, the morning after. You know the look. It seems completely dead. The warmth is gone, the light's gone, all that's left is this gray, lifeless dust. And that feeling, that's burnout. That's resignation. And here is the question that changed.
Right, so this is a 5-minute video. could you not put this on the Sermon Archive page? Because we want to go from short form content to mid form content to long form content, right? You want a content funnel. And so this is how I think you can create content at scale. Again, you can prompt it and put in your own colors, your branding, style guide, all that kind of stuff. There's many different things. So this I think is something that you will see over and over again, that as we go forward, repurposing of content is going to become easier and much more easy to control and navigate yourself. The thing that I'm seeing right now is many people are now hooking Claude up to NotebookLM and using that as a second brain in storage. And so now you're able to have Claude do research on the internet and synthesize, etc., dump it into NotebookLM, produce all these artifacts on demand without you ever logging into NotebookLM. And so even that podcast, think about that podcast, it can isolate, it can break down your sermon, Mark, into 10 different segments. Say, hey, we're going to break down the transcript into 10 different ideas that the intention is to discuss them as a podcast, break them down, and then go back and prompt it to make 10 different episodes. And now you can ship it to Spotify as a short form podcast series based on that sermon, right? And then you can have the audio that Claude makes automate an audio tag at the end and say, hey, did you like today's episode? If you want to hear the whole message, go to the website. So these are the types of things that you're doing. So I'd love for you to go through the process of doing that. The thing that I think is the superpower that everyone loves is this audio overview. And so the audio overview is that two-person podcast. So if you guys have a sermon, I would love for you to actually produce it, and then we can, text it to somebody back at home. And so there's a couple different modalities here. One is the brief one. So that's just a bite-sized overview, short, quick hit. This is something I think is very good for texting to your small group leaders, texting to volunteers, texting to your elders, etc. The other two that on the right I think are very interesting, and you should really try each one of them. First of all, it's free, so you might as well just click the buttons and see what comes out for your own content. I think the best way is using this stuff with content that you know, right? Like, so Mark knows his sermon, and then he understands the context of, oh, how good was the output? So that's why I want you to upload your own stuff, right? Whether it's even from a stream. Do you have a recording from a stream that you had? Clip it and put it in there and see what happens. But basically, these two I think are very interesting. One is a critique. It's an expert review of your sources, offering constructive feedback to help you improve your material. So this is a sounding board. This is a coach. So if you're a pastor that actually has sermons, you can put in your sermon, and then it's going to give you a critique of your sermon for how effective it is. And that if you put into the prompt that says, this is a sermon, and I want some act like a homiletics professor, and then also a hybrid of someone who understands culture with modern communications in a culture that is used to YouTube and TED Talks, and right? Have that prompting, you'll be amazed at the critique, positive critique, the mentoring that it provides you for the content that you put into it. For having this in your pocket is just incredible. And then the last one is debate. Debate is basically taking different perspectives. Mark and I like to be on panels because we like to shoot it out and fight and take down each other. This is a healthy academic debate of the things that you want to give it. So imagine, again, putting a sermon message or something and directing it, say, hey, these are the 3 ideas in there that I'd like you to discuss and debate. It's very interesting when it comes back. Yeah, Mark.
Yeah, you could do something similar, like let's say I'm making YouTube videos, could I throw my YouTube in there?
Yeah.
My video in there, the thumbnail that I'm going to post, the description that I'm going to post with it, add all of those things as notes, and then ask them, hey, how would you improve this? How would you make it better?
Yeah.
What should I change?
It can't do the visual stuff in terms of it's not going to give you critique on the thumbnail. That you can do elsewhere in other AI tools. But yes, you can do that. And again, what I would do is I would always prompt it to say, what is the genre and what are the rubric? What are you trying to actually do? Like from the lens of a YouTuber, what I'm trying to do is increase retention rates, right? And so in this transcript, where, and you might even look at your metrics and put in some metrics with it and say, hey, analyze the metrics, map it to the transcript, and then give me some feedback as to, how can I increase the retention rate. So again, there's tons of different things. The deep dive is the thing that I demoed before, and again, I think going to Claude to actually prompt something and put it back in here is the superpower, so that you get a podcast episode that you really like. It gives you at the bottom, because it's already read the sources, it gives you some ideas like, oh, here are the 4 growth stages, right? And so it says, if I click the button, organize the talk by explaining the 4 stages of faith. R, right? And so I'm going to click generate, and then actually produce a podcast episode just for that. Now, the question everyone asks, it's a male and a female, can I put in my voice? No, you can't, not yet. Google is hopefully going to do that. In the meantime, there's a tool called 11 Labs. 11 Labs is probably the best text-to-speech tool out there. And in one of their tools, they have now, let's see, more tools. Where is, they moved everything. They have a tool that does 2-person podcasts at this point. This is why all these tools change every day. I was just in here. Yeah, so this is a 2-person podcast.
Churches embracing artificial intelligence? Well, a shocking new survey shows 87% of religious leaders are actually open to it, completely turning traditional assumptions about technology and faith on their head.
That's fascinating. What exactly are they using AI for in ministry work?
Right, and so I just picked, this was an old cloned audio voice of me from a year ago, so that's it's much better now. And I just picked some other voice. But you can actually pick and clone your own voices or pick studio voices from the hundreds and hundreds of voices that they have. And then you can change the emotions and the speed and all that kind of stuff. And so now you actually have the ability to have multiple person podcasts produced, and you don't need to. This gets back to my point that we are moving toward, if we're not already there, where synthetic media is going to be the default. They need to solve the authenticity problem where you can't tell if it's me or if it's AI me. They're getting to that really, really quickly. One of the ways around it is using the voice avatars, not real persons cloned, because they don't know who that is. Right? You're critiquing this because you know my voice, but if it's someone else's, you're not as critical. So this is the future. But anyway, back to Google Notebook. I think this is something that every church, every volunteer can actually start to get involved in. And you have a back catalog of stuff. And we know, we just had a discussion about this at breakfast. We know that Google is not out of the race. Why? Because Google owns the whole infrastructure platform that we live on. Google, Gmail, Docs, right? Everything, and search. And so for AI optimization, one of the things that everyone needs to get on right now is you need to publish as much stuff on Google properties, and that is YouTube and YouTube Shorts, right? And so getting as much stuff out there as possible. So imagine creating those narrated video overviews that can go to your YouTube channel at scale and create short versions and putting it up as shorts is going to feed the algorithm and the LLMs so that your stuff shows up in the AI overviews, in search results, in Gemini results, all that kind of stuff. And so the race is on right now. The winners are going to be, for visibility, the organizations and the creators that understand you need to pump out content right now. And Google's helping you. Google's kind of giving you a cheat code for their own system. And so hopefully this is something that will inspire you guys. But at the end of the day, one of the fun things is trying to figure out practical use cases of podcast episodes for your own ministry. So is there anyone in the room that has used this in their own ministry? Yeah. How?
So I use Claude for creating our website.
Yeah.
And I'm looking into, we're wanting to learn how to use it to generate content, and I don't have time to be in Springer and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I use it to generate
Yeah. So all this stuff, I think, is just one of those things where once you start incrementally and not get overwhelmed and just adopt one tool at a time, everyone has to figure out what their own affinity is. So here's another tool. It's called Ideogram. Ideogram is one of the best image generation tools right now. It does text really, really well. One of the fun things that I like about Ideogram is it actually has a section that has Explore, where you can actually go look what everyone else has generated, right? So you can see just every, zeitgeist of what people are creating with this tool, which is great. They have some categories up here: poster, photography, t-shirts, marketing, print on demand, right? There's all these things that you can do. So what's great about this stuff is that you can actually go in, let's just see t-shirts. You can go in and see what the prompt is that everyone else used to create specific things, right? So, wow, today's a little bit of a dark day on the internet. Love like Jesus. So if you wanted to, you just click the remix button. It gives you the specific prompt, and then you can change the prompt anywhere you want, right? And says, Jesus loves Mark, right? And away it goes, and then in my images, it immediately will create that. And so this is just one of the things that you can look at the inspiration gallery and then modify the prompt. Eventually, you start to learn what does work, what. And so it creates, I did it twice, but it creates 4 different prompts, and you can do that. In the past, this is a logo I made for a mastermind group that I'm forming from May to October called Claude Collective. And then I just created some of these based on, this was in the morning. God loves nerds. Right, and so this is something that is a little bit of a novelty, but it allows you to look at the specific prompts and what's in the prompts and what the structures of the prompts are. You get to be familiar with it, and that skill is transferable when you go to Gemini or ChatGPT or these other tools that are image generators as well. But in the meantime, on a very practical basis, every program, campaign, even emails and all that kind of stuff can take your brand and you can look at what other people are doing and then modify that, right? If you have need a promotional flyer for something, you can actually, right, like this is, you can remix it and you can say, nerds are here, you should be too. Right, and we can create a, and immediately you can create posters, you can create artifacts, social media, and all that kind of stuff, right? Nerds are here, you should be too. So Ideogram is just another tool that I think is a very practical basis. Yeah?
And I don't, this may get way too off the mark, so
Sure.
maybe so, but I work with the ministry organization that mobilizes creatives,
Yes.
and this is just very concerning.
Yeah. Yes.
Just that whole 2 things. One, because we've got one person writing a book, and they go to AI to create the title, where we've got a whole bunch of other creatives that would love to come along, so that's part of that community aspect of it. But then the whole copyright kind of stuff, because all of those had to come from somewhere and all of that. So, like I said, that's just too far off the mark.
Yeah, copyright is a big question. It's in the courts, right? And so I'm not a lawyer. I only play one on TV, right? That disclaimer. There is, again, I think that is the question. So this is why I think as Christians in particular, ethics, integrity, and all that kind of stuff, we need more conversations about it because we haven't had deep conversations about that at scale that is ubiquitous like many other issues and topics that Christians care about, right? And so we need more conversations. In an environment like Ideogram, I have less of a problem with that because that's disclosed up front, right? That inspiration, and again, I could make stuff private that's not available in the public galleries, but this is part of the actual modality of this tool in particular. That exploration, modification, remixing is part of that. I think it's less problematic in that case versus some others, right? But I think that is something that we have to figure out how to reckon with. I do think the whole intellectual property paradigm is up for disruption, just like how Napster has turned the head, for music industry. And so we need to think about stuff differently. And I do think in terms of creatives in particular, and I empathize with creatives. I was just with also, last year I spoke with the Christian High School Sports Athletics Photographers Association. So, right, people who are professional photographers that are Christian that do sports photography businesses. And so photography is something that's like, why do I need to buy the yearbook anymore and get the 4x6s for grandma? Remember those back in the day, right? Your parents would pay hundreds of dollars to get those things, and now you don't. Why? Because we can just AI it ourselves. So I think that the questions in that community is a big one, but I do think the contribution I would say to that discussion is, are you approaching with a scarcity mindset that the old legacy model of IP is the thing that you're protecting and not exploring other ways to figure out if monetization is the issue, protection of your creative assets for monetization? Is there not many other ways to actually explore it, right? And so that's the short answer. It's not adequate, but yeah. Okay, so whether it's HeyGen or Ideogram or Notebook, I think this is powerful. Is there anyone here that has created something with NotebookLM just this morning? Has anyone gotten an artifact, podcast, or anything like that? I'd like to play it later if we have some time. Okay, so let's switch gears. This is just a glimpse, I think, of the practical things that we have in front of us. But there's many, many more. And the reason why I decided today in the first session and a little bit today in the second session, instead of diving deep into like 20 tools and giving you that stuff, there's tons of stuff out there. There's, YouTube, a lot of communities. I run AIforChurchLeaders.com. That's a plug. We have a training platform. We do monthly live workshops. We have a Facebook group, completely free. If you go into the group, there's 7,800 church leaders in that group. You should join that group. Who's a part of that group? Does anyone, do I have any friends from that group? Yeah. It is an active group, right? You would say it's an active group. So everyone should join that group, AI for Church Leaders and Pastors. And that's a place where we are starting to figure out how to even formalize more screen sharing videos and tutorials, etc. So that's why I'm not going there, because tactics and things like that, I think that's soup du jour. Okay, let's go into vibe coding. So if everyone has their laptops out, I'm going to explain a little bit what vibe coding is. I'm going to give you an actual framework of how to actually approach vibe coding, and then you're going to do it. And so hopefully you have an idea. If you don't have an idea for a web app or a tool to produce, like an assessment or a calculator or a tool, that's fine. We're going to bring up two examples quickly after I explain what vibe coding is. And my suggestion is start super simple. Start with just a web page to promote something that you have. So Mother's Day, Father's Day, some Bible study, right? Just do something simple. I just need your hands to be on the keyboard to start to see what it feels like to talk with a chatbot and then it creates something. If you have something more complex, that's fantastic. And we're going to give you free credits today from Lovable. They're one of the partners. I partner with them. And so for the most part, we've done this several times. We're going to give you 100 credits. For the advanced users, you're like, that's not enough. But for most people, you're not going to get out of this room with using more than 25 credits maybe. So you'll have enough to go home and experiment even further. Okay? So what is vibe coding? Vibe coding is when you speak in plain English or Italian or Korean, right? When you're just speaking plain language, not coding, right? You give it the vibes of what you want. Well, that's what the cool kids started with. We're stuck with it now. So you just give it the vibes in plain language, and then it goes off and writes the code for you without you seeing it. So it is like you called in an intern, you hired an intern that's a developer, right? Advanced developer, like super advanced developer, better than any other developer you know. And you call them into your office, you whiteboard this thing. I have this idea to do this, and you're going to explain to them. Because you're not a coder, you're not going to explain database architecture, you're not going to explain anything. You're just going to explain what you think it is. And most of the time, it's you have a problem, and you want to solve it, and you have some idea, dream of how it might look like, right? That's how leaders delegate to interns. We're very bad delegators to interns, right? And so you're going to explain it in plain English. They're going to leave and go back to their cubicle, and then they're going to code it for you, never show you the code, and then bring the laptop back to you and say, hey, do you like it? What should we do? Change it? Improve it? Like, right? And so that's the modality. You have to be not the coder at the keyboard now. You have to be the delegator, the director of the intern. So that is the paradigm shift that we have to think about, because a lot of times when we think about coding stuff or building stuff, we think very technical. And now that has been completely removed from the actual equation. And it's very different than, like I said, just like you're talking to ChatGPT, et cetera, but it's not. ChatGPTs and vibe coding is very different. And ChatGPT is transactional. You ask a question and it gets a question. It brings back an answer, right? And the output is multimodal, but it's word, it's images, it might be video. But for the most part, it's word and images right now, right? So it's basically like this smart intern, an assistant. Vibe coding is the output is an actual functional working thing, right? It's not a document. It's a thing that you can actually do. So you can actually release it to the world. There is different types of complexity that you can actually have your intern do, right? So there's different types of things. So you can create a basic website. And so if you go to our website for our venture studio, stackhouseventures.com, this website, and you'll notice there's some animation and all that kind of stuff. You'll notice look at the menu, look at the fancy menu that it collapses, parallax, all this kind of stuff. This was all vibe coded, right? So there's not any coding. It is literally someone, we sat down and it's just talking to the actual thing. All this stuff is just based on words, and then this created it all for us, okay? Database, forms, all the kind of stuff. And so the website is the very, very basic version of things that you can do. And that's where it's like, I'd love to figure out how you can build something today. As you go up, it's like a proposal. So can you do something that's a little bit more custom for somebody? So that's in a business context. For a individual, could it be something as a follow-up to a counseling meeting that you then have some notes from the meeting, resources, embed some videos, some next steps, invitations? Could you personalize something that you send to somebody that you met with to be able to do a follow-up? After that is an assessment. It's a little bit more complex. We used to have this thing on churchbenchmarks.com. It used to be on SurveyMonkey, churchbenchmarks.com. And you can take it. Basically, it is an assessment. It's a full-blown assessment that basically you go in and answer questions. We ask church leaders, this is for pastors and church leaders, what you're using for texting, what you're using for email, for all the categories of technology. This is for churchtechtoday.com, which we own. And then we ask, are you happy with it? Net Promoter Score, scale of 1 to 10, are you happy with it? And then how much are you paying for it, right? Some basic questions. And then as you answer the questions, we give the benchmark. You said you pay $37 for texting a month. The average church pays $9 for texting a month right now. The average person who uses your service that you're using loves it, and you hate it, or vice versa, right? So everyone wants to know what everyone else is doing. This gives you some benchmarks, and this gives reporting, and eventually we're doing, suggestions after it. If they're not happy with the tool, then here's 5 other tools you might explore, right? So it's going to become more complex. But this site, and if you go through the actual survey, is all done via vibe coding, okay? The next one is interactive tool. And so this is where I think things get really interesting. Think of like spiritual gifts inventory. It might be an intake form for volunteering. Where do you best fit for volunteering on your team? And so this one's competitive intelligence. But again, this is all, this would not have been able to be done 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And now these are being built within a day, right? And so who was the one that said they just replaced their accounting? Was it? Yeah. Share with us what you did with vibe coding. With accounting, right?
Yeah, so basically, we run a Minecraft ministry, and our website is entirely coded by AI. And the way that I do it, and I don't need pretty complex features in there, is I work with AI to build a really detailed plan of here's what feature I want, here's how I want it to work. It writes up the plan, writes it up in all the issues, and then I let it run, and it just runs over time while I'm at work. And I can actually track its progress while I'm at work, which is what it's doing. And then I get home from work at the end of the day, it says this feature's ready to test, it's already been reviewed and everything. And so I just test it and get feedback, and we built I wanted to integrate a finance system into our website so that I don't have to pay for finance software. I want to pay for a subscription. And so we built I built it in a weekend using AI. So
Yeah.
it's been pretty.
It's John, right? John?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to volunteer you. This is a way to make friends. Ask John to see it at some point before you leave, right? Just to get a glimpse of what's actually happened. Dalton, what did you make? Tell us what you created.
Yeah, so I'm the community discipleship pastor at Lux, and just in our men's group, I've had a lot of conversations just over accountability, I'm struggling with taking a step of like simple things like daily prayer or reading. So I vibe coded using Lovable. You can search it, it's faithstep.lovable.app.
Yep.
But I created a mobile app that our guys have started using and playing around with that allows them to have something that is very simple and clean, but helps them build intentional rhythms of faith. So it tracks all of their day-to-day stuff. You could say, hey, I practiced this prayer prompt today. It'll track it at the top. Did you read the Bible? Has a suggestion. Usually it's actually based on kind of what our guys have been going through. It's got a monthly verse to memorize together. It's got a step out action, and if you've seen that one already, you could actually just go to something new if you'd like. Because I've only created so many prompts for that. But then in the final section, it's an accountability tracker. So being online, we've got guys that deal with all kinds of different issues. The cool thing is, it keeps your day, and you can immediately share that with a friend. And then as you reset, I've coded it to have a encouraging reminder, like, hey, we all fall down, but the Lord's here for you. Like, let's take a next step and pray, repent, and go on the next day. There's a history too, so you can see like how often you've stuck with your practice, and then in the settings, there's all kinds of fun themes, like a Taco Bell theme and all kinds of fun stuff. But different Bible translations and all that, so it's fun.
Baja Taco Bell.
Yeah. The graphic design part of me got too excited.
Venmo.
You don't need to Venmo. But there's a couple youth groups that are using it though, which is really cool too.
Yeah. How long would you say this took for you to build?
So it was a combination of me dreaming, writing down, talking to ChatGPT, and then putting it in the Lovable, but it just took an afternoon.
Yeah. Does everyone get that? Like, that's a functional web app. That the other thing is, it's not static. If he had an inspiration today from a conversation today, he can go add a new function before dinner, right? He can actually change the order, there's tons of stuff that you can do. So this is super practical, right? Hopefully you're seeing these ideas. Who else has vibe coded a ministry app or tool? I know there's a bunch of other people in the room. Anybody else? What have you built?
It was a communion app, so that whenever we do communion online, you can put push the button and a number goes up as a representation of the body.
Yeah, so you understand how you're part of the body. Yeah. Anybody else? Anybody else has done a ministry vibe-coded app tool?
Yeah, so on the Love Thy Neighbor website,
Yeah.
our mission stuff is all vibe-coded, and also all of our podcast stuff is also vibe-coded as well.
So where?
Just scroll down, right there, you passed it. That's all vibe-coded.
So instead of buying a website widget tool, you dreamt it and you're like, hey, we'll create it.
Yep. And then under our outreach page at the top,
Reach.
yep. All that stuff is also vibe-coded, and it's dynamic, so it's based on the date. It pulls the next one up, takes the one off.
Yeah, so you don't have to sit there administratively thinking through. So it knows that June is the next one, and then June 22nd, it will change it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right? So are you starting to get the idea? I want you guys to make friends with these people. And if you have other stuff that you've built, I need you to share that today in the room because this is the future. Just how Canva, does everyone know Canva? Canva has democratized design, right? It's given access to everyone. Canva has vibe coding in it, by the way, which is absolutely nuts. Vibe coding is democratizing creation. And so now, if you have a problem that you know you can solve, now you can actually make it happen, right? And so this is an exciting future. I think you're going to see more and more things out there. And so you're just creating. So this is Lovable. This is just a view of Lovable. I'm trying to see. So for churchtechtoday.com, I just started to think through all the different things that church leaders want to do. So a QR code generator. I get DMs on, do you know a free QR code generator? I get so many DMs every month. It's crazy. So meeting links, finding a time, URL shorteners. So I'm just starting to build all these tools to give to church leaders, right? So that's just one project that I have. There's a whole bunch. So anyway, this is the future. So we're going to go into Lovable. Lovable.dev. Lovable.dev. D-E-V. Lovable.dev. And so those of you that do have, what we're going to do is give you 100 credits. And so you're going to basically, let me pull up the slide to give you the instructions. Where did my slides go? So even if you feel lethargic after lunch, you're like, I don't want to do this today, get the credits. Grab the credits. And so let me give you the instructions. Here it is. So what's happening is we're going to give you basically one free month of the Pro plan, which is 100 credits. And so you're going to sign up, use this coupon code, and then what I need you to do is immediately set up a calendar reminder. So make an appointment in Google Calendar, or whatever you use, Outlook. Right? So what's today? Today is April the 14th. So May the 12th, put on your calendar to cancel the account. Right? Let's do that now, before you leave. In fact, do that before you set up the Lovable. I will say, I've made this joke once, and people DM me. I will say, I put my cell phone number up once, and I said, I need you to put in that calendar appointment my phone number so that you can text me and let me know that you canceled it or not. And once I had 20 people say that, no, they didn't cancel it. They're hooked now. And they're continuing to use Lovable because they found so many uses. So basically, you're going to go into Lovable, lovable.dev, okay? And then you're going to click on Get Started and create an account. And then you're going to go to Plans and Credits, right? So lovable.dev, and then you're basically going to sign up. And Plans and Credits, and again, the long promo code is nerd-culture-ministry-summit 47. Nerd Culture Ministry Summit 47. Nerd-culture-ministry-summit 47. And then that should make it 0. And then you have a full month of 100 credits on the Pro Plan 1 for this next month. And again, I've done this several times. Typically, you don't get past 25 credits today. you'll have enough to play with afterwards. There have been people that come back on the second day of the conference, and they were up to 3 a.m. and then they upgraded to like the $100 plan just because they were just like going to the moon. Okay, if you have Lovable and you still want it, the way to do it is you create a new workspace. Oh.
So short we forgot it.
Nerd, so where are we? Where are we? Nerd Culture Ministry Summit with dashes 47. Nerd Culture Ministry Summit 47. That's the promo code. Nerd-culture-ministry-summit 47. Everyone have it? Yes? I'm going to take it off. And here's the excuse if you didn't get it, it's time to make a friend. There's a human next to you. Okay, the way for those that you actually have an account, right? Because you're not going to create a brand new account, is you create a new workspace on the left-hand side. And then when you create a new workspace, it's going to ask you to fund it. Every workspace has a different billing. And that's how you do it. Okay? Anybody having trouble? I'm going to ask those of you that are advanced to look around and see if you can help those around you. Yes? Is everyone good? Any problems? Any problems? Raise your hand if you are stuck, and we'll have some friends help you. I don't see any hands. So, and don't forget, May 12th, May 13th, put a calendar reminder on your calendar to cancel this. Okay? Claude can do that. Claude can do that, right? So, you want to see it in action? So I'm just going to go to Claude, new chat. Claude, can you go into my calendar and set up a reminder event on May the 12th to cancel my Lovable trial? Well, why didn't... And that's how I did the other one. So it'll go in and produce that calendar event. Okay, so everyone's set up, right? Okay, let's get to vibe coding. So vibe coding, I set you up in Lovable, but just to let you know, it's just like every other competitive market, there are multiple competitors. And so you might hear these terms. Bolt is another vibe coding platform. Base 44 is one. Replit is one. Immersion is one. Cursor, Windsurf, Claude Code, there's all these that are popping up. This is the future. And again, Canva, if you have a Canva account, it has it as well. Side note, I noticed someone today did not know. Who has a Claude account here? Who actually actively has a Claude account? Who's part of a 501c3? Who knows what I'm going to say next?
Is it free? No, it's a discount. It's like setting up for YouTube.
Yeah. Yes. Right? So if you are a nonprofit, you can get a discount for Claude. Okay. So just to let you know, you might hear of all these other platforms, but they all pretty much work the same. We've tried to build trainings and workshops with hundreds of people, and this is the vibe framework that we came up with that helps you step you through the process. Is this the process you use every single time? No, but this is just a structured process to get you through that gives you some confidence. So V is for vision. You need to get clear on problem definition. Like before, remember I said we kind of are horrible delegators in general? Same thing here. You can't just like say, hey, can you approximate this solution? No, you have to know exactly crisply what are you trying to do. And so the best case scenarios, if we had a whiteboard in your office or your room, is to actually map out the steps one after the other of what you want to have happen. If you can write that standard operating procedure down so that I could come, if you leave the room and then I come in the room and I can actually perform that whole workflow or whatever it is, that is success. But you need to get clear on the problem first. Second is you need an inspiration, just some model, some target, because creating things is just a wide universe. And so you need to give it some ideas of, hey, I like this, I like that, some inspiration, eyes for inspiration. The next one is the blueprint. So you actually want to give the recipe some details. You have to give it some guts, the task details. In the programming world, that's called a PRD, a product requirements document. If you're a product manager, there's this thing, it's like a creative brief. It's something that you write down to give the coders some direction of what we all agree this thing is going to be. So it's a little bit organized. So we're going to create a product requirements document because we're going to give that to our intern, our coder. And then there's execution and you evolve it, right? So that's what it is. So in the vision step, we're going to do a couple things. We have to answer, what's the specific problem solving? Who is it specifically for? What does success look like when this thing is actually running, up and running and working? And is this an internal tool or is it an external product, right? Like, is it for external constituents or internal? The inspiration is to give it some idea of what you like. So your look and feel. So taking screenshots of other apps, other websites, your own, your brand kit, colors, palettes, all that kind of stuff. Are there specific things you like that menu bar at the top, user interface widgets and things that you've seen? This is what we call a little bit in the direct marketing world, like usually you have a swipe file. So in the old advertising and marketing world, you used to have a folder by your desk, and whenever you had a magazine, newspaper, you liked an ad, you would tear it out and save it for inspiration later. And so now you're seeing, it's almost like a Pinterest board. Can you start to collect the things that you like? Because then you can give it to the machine and then it will start to use that as inspiration. One of the shortcuts is to go to some design sites like Colors, C-O-O-L-O-R-S, Coolers, which has tons of color palettes, right? So if you're gonna start a new site and a new brand and you don't know what to do, coolers.co. allows you to then create color palettes super fast, things that, all the color theories and stuff like that. And then you can actually pick popular color palettes that have been explored already, and then you just pick one. So you can screenshot each one of these or collect them, get the hex codes, etc. So color palettes is just a very common thing that everyone needs to do, right? Dribbble, Behance, these are like designer portfolios. Other websites, you want to approximate a direction of where you're going, okay? B is for blueprint, that's the PRD. Typically, it's a couple of parts. To make it simple, you have to tell the coder what is it for, who is it for, the problem, list the core features that you want built out, design direction, success. To make it easy, we built a prompt, so if you take this QR code and go to that actual site, you'll get to see the actual PRD, right? So the process, the prompt. So you'll copy paste that into ChatGPT or Claude. It will step you through the process to create an actual PRD document. An easy way without doing that is just to go into Claude and say, hey, I need to create a product requirements document, a PRD. I'm vibe coding something with Lovable. Here's what I want to create. Ask me up to 5 questions to clarify so that you can create a great PRD. Right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to go into Lovable and then we're going to copy paste it in and let it do its thing. We're going to execute it. So we're going to paste the PRD into Lovable and then it's going to come back and then that's when we iterate and we actually go back and forth in a conversation in the chat with the chatbot. Right? So there's more advanced stuff, right? Later you can hook up databases and payments and take credit cards and use Google authentication to get in, so you don't need to click with your Google account to log in. There's all these other fun things that you can do that's advanced. That will come naturally easy. I would just say let's just get started with what you have. So hopefully everyone has their own Lovable account. You have the code Nerd Culture Ministry Summit with dashes 47. That will expire, I think, at the end of tomorrow, I think. So make sure you set up your own accounts. Borrow someone else's computer, set up a Lovable account, get those credits. And then this is where I think if you want to start today, we're just going to do it ad hoc right now. But basically, I would go through the PRD prompt. Where's the PRD prompt? Did everyone get this? I want you to get that QR code. And put that into ChatGPT or Claude. I think Claude is better. and basically create a PRD, and then you're going to go in and then copy paste that into Lovable, and then hit enter, and that's where we're going to start. And that's it. It is really that simple. You have this main chat window, and then once you paste something in, you're going to get the project output. Let me see if I can find a very simple one. So this is something that my son created. He's in college, and he's applying for internships. And so he needed something to track his internship applications for the summer. And so, and so this is it. So he thought of like if they were index cards or folders, that he can track them as they go, so he can, the progress. So the left-hand column is apply, working on it, I applied, I'm waiting for an interview, final stages, accepted, and I think there's the ominous dinged, yeah, rejected, right? And so then each one has all these details, whoops, right? And the date, like he said, okay, I need to know the application date, and compare it to today's date. If it's passed, then it turns from yellow to red. And so this is something that he provided. If you wanted to add internship, you can upload the PDF or put in a link to a job description. It'll parse it out and put it all in. So this is just one example. And so to give you an example of what we do. So now I have it here, right? This is the site. On the left-hand side is the chat. And so if I wanted to say something, now this is where you want to improve it. So the intern came back, brought the example, the draft, and now you want to change it. So I can say anything, like this is hard to read. I want higher contrast. Background of the page should be dark. Right? I mean, you can go into more complex things, but I want to show you just how simple this is. There's no coding involved. You're just having a conversation like you're having it at Starbucks. And so it's doing what a good intern does. It tells you what it's doing. It's evaluating contrast and dark theme options. It's going, and again, if you wanted to, you can actually go and see the code very easily. There's a code tab at the top if you're a nerd. You can see, look at all this code that it generated. Like all of these things, it has generated this entire tree of coding, right? You don't need to see any of this. So it created a dark mode, basically, right? You can change the order, you can have alerts, etc. Yeah, you had a question back here, someone? No? Okay. So this is the conversation I want you to have with your intern. As you improve it, it's going to get better and better. So here's just a simple example. Let me go back and find my projects. Here's one I did on the plane. So we're creating all these fun graphics, etc. I'm like, instead of starting from scratch every single time with a prompt, why not just create a site that just has them all the time? And so I created this where it has preset prompts for a church marquee sign, sermon title slide, worship, lyric screen, pulpit banner, revival tent poster, all these things. And so you just pick one, church marquee sign, and then you say nerd culture Ministry Summit, April 2026, Colorado Springs. Be there or be square. So I just, I didn't even create those categories of images. I asked Lovable, what are a whole bunch? Create 20 different variations that I might use in social media or in a church life. And so, whoops, did I have it's generated again. And so do you see, like, this is something I just did on the plane, cramped in, right? And then you can reprompt it or do something else, right? So This site that I've just created can do all these different things. Stained glass window. Someone got pissed when I posted this the other day. So actually, where is it? Is it worth finding? I did a stained glass window that said, God is not surprised by AI. AI is your friend.
Kenny, what are the limitations of hosting on Lovable?
So this stuff, if you're a nerd, can push everything to GitHub, and you can take it and do whatever you want. A lot of people are pushing and using Claude to pull it, etc. They, like most businesses, are hosting, and so they want you to host with them. The database, they have their own database backend. They want to, so this, I'm using right now the Lovable version of Gemini for image generation. So they're billing me, right? It's like a web host. And you can do custom domains. So even here, so let's see, look at this. AI is your friend. God is not surprised by AI. Yeah, this is the type of stuff that I get a lot of DMs about. I'm going to save that. That's a good one. Let's save that one. Okay. So on the publish side, it gives you the option, right? It's like all web hosting, something lovable.app. So the vibe coding platform is lovable.dev, and Lovable doesn't have an E. It's Lovable. That's Lovable. .dev is the coding platform. The published sites is .app, right? So Dalton's site was faith something about .app, right? So you can customize this stem if you wanted to of the URL, right? So I can say Mark is the best, right? And so now that's the URL, right? So that's a public URL. If you wanted to, you can add a custom domain. And these guys are genius. They made it so frictionless that it just takes your money out of your wallet without, forget about Amazon Prime. This thing just sucks it, right? And so you can buy a domain. You can take your own domain, put it in there. You can attach it to a custom a subdomain. There's many different options. I mean, if you're an internet nerd, there's tons of things that you can do with it as well. But the answer is, for most people, this is great to just host it here or a custom domain, etc.
So like your son's example is uploading PDFs.
Yes.
Assuming that's all hosted on Lovable.
Yeah, it's using a backend. You can use other databases, but we're using the Lovable Cloud. It used to be you needed to set up Supabase and get the token, and very nerdy. Now it's just one button. It actually will prompt you. It's like, hey, you need a database. We can set it up. Press click, and we'll set up through Lovable Cloud. And so it's super easy right now. Right up here, this is the Lovable Cloud. So if I had a database, right, it actually saved my generated images. And then it has 22 rows right now that I can go back and look at it, right? You could set up outbound emails, authentication, all that kind of stuff. Yes?
I know you're,
Yes.
you only have like 3 minutes.
Yes.
Hopefully not too long a question, but is there anything, as you work with pastors and leaders, that you would tell them, like, I strongly discourage using AI for X, Y, or Z? There might be techniques before that, but probably not.
Yeah, so Kevin Roos, who's a New York Times bestseller, has written on this stuff. He has a good book, Future Proof. He's talked about 3 categories of work that AI cannot replace. I don't know if I agree with all of them, but things that are scarce is one of them. So things that are mission critical, that has a low fault tolerance. So for example, the President of the United States carries what we call the football. Someone's always carrying the football with them. You know what the football is? It's a leather bag with access to the nuclear codes, right? So at all times, someone is carrying on the Secret Service is carrying the football. I don't think you should outsource the nuclear codes to that. Now that was part of the whole Anthropic ethical dilemma, and they lost $200 million in contract and all that stuff, and that's why everyone loves that and ChatGPT. There's a whole thing, right? In our space, I don't know if you would outsource counseling, and especially at-risk conversations. Now, it will happen. We are going to see news stories about that. Why? Because the peek of me avatar, were you here in the room when I was demoing that? So HeyGen has, it's a little bit janky, but it will get better, where my own avatar through HeyGen can join a Zoom call. I can upload all my database documents and knowledge, and it can autonomously join a call and have conversations, not just reactive. It can literally have conversations based on the knowledge where. I don't know if that's the best way to use that for specific sensitive topics in pastoral office of the pastor stuff. Now, for your website, I think it's going to become ubiquitous and standardized that, hey, plan your visit. What is parking like? What do I wear? Is there, right? Like all that kind of stuff. That customer service will become ubiquitous. But I think there are places in the ministry that's sensitive that I think we need to pull back and have those boundaries on. Unfortunately, I just think people are just going to, jump and do it, and we're going to see some things that are not like there. Writing your sermon, I think that's where it has to be a writing partner. It can't be outsourced. Although I have an academic debate, I think we said it in the other thing, where no shade on Southern Baptists, but the SBC themselves put out a report, their annual report, I think last year, the last 365 days, only 40-something% of their churches, 40-something% of the churches have not baptized a single person in the last 365 days. Baptist is in your name. There is an argument to be said that part of the reason is homiletics. Let's just be very reductionistic, right? We don't have that much time, but reductionistic. That your sermonizing is the thing that contributes disproportionately to getting someone for a decision for Christ and baptizing, right? I would argue that the average American pastor right now, the quality of the sermons probably could be surpassed by AI. That you and I could sit down and write a manuscript for a pastor if we did this reality show experiment and wrote the manuscript for them for the next 52 weeks, get them to preach it for 52 weeks, that if you had a before and after, they didn't baptize a single person in the last year, and our AI-generated sermons in the next year brought people to Christ. I mean, I can almost bet my mortgage that we can bring people to Christ and baptism with preaching with AI. At what point do we say, no, we should not have AI write sermons for us? I don't know. I will take it out of a different context where it's easier to agree with me. In the MENA region, I work with some organizations, right? The Middle East, North Africa, persecuted Christians, North Korea, you cannot go in there, you cannot evangelize. So there's ministries, right, that set up radio towers and just broadcast radio, right, with gospel messages 24/7 in those places, right? Imagine doing that in their own native language at scale, contextualized with AI. Should we not be proliferating more radio channels to pump gospel messages into those secure regions where Christians are persecuted? How do you argue against that? I don't know. And I don't know what the right answer is. I'm not fully on one side or the other. But I think we have to have more conversations about that, right? And so I think it is also case-by-case basis where you might say yes in the persecuted regions, but no, not on Main Street in Colorado Springs. It's not an easy answer, right? Anything else? Anything remaining questions?
Can I hit you with one other side?
Yeah.
Where do you think the future of education is going? I'm a college professor.
Yeah. What part of college education? So I think our society is in trouble. I think our young people don't know how to think anymore, and it's just getting worse. I don't think the answer is that in the classroom you should ban AI, which many institutions started out at least with, because we're telling our kids, don't use this thing, and then as soon as you graduate, you're going to walk into a job, hopefully, where you are being pressured every day to use AI to the max, and that AI fluency is now starting to be formally part of your job review process. You're being scored on your AI fluency. And so we've built a whole educational system to ignore the thing that is needed to have vocation. I don't know. I don't think so. Now, I do think, this is such a big question. I think we look at education as such turnkey that the parents are absent and we just like dump the kid at the curb and expect them to do it. Parents need to be the ones. Families need to be the one. And this is the opportunity for the church. I think the one thing that every single church has an opportunity. All these churches feel irrelevant in their zip code. They can't get the attention of anyone, the civic leaders, anybody. The best way that you can do that will change your experience is host an AI panel night, some discussions for parents and kids. That one topic, if you had workshops every other month and you didn't have to be the expert, someone in your congregation, either themselves, them or their 6 degrees of separation, know other experts, civic leaders, college professors, to come in to have panel discussions and educate the parents about what to do with that question, I guarantee you fill up your auditorium, your sanctuary every single time. Guarantee it. It's the one thing that the church has a superpower on, that's being in the public square and convening people. We've lost the art, we've lost the courage to do that, and this is the one topic that God has given us the gift to be able to be the convener, and not the expert, the convener, to then be relevant and say, hey, what else you got? And the side thing about us is people that have never walked in your church are actually physically in your church for the first time, right? And treat them well, right? And so this is the part of the thing that says, hey, how do we start to become the conversation partner with everyone? Because we're all trying to figure it out together. No one has the answer. That's the one thing. Don't become the expert. Be the one for your spheres of influence to start those conversations, because there's a long way to go, and a year from now is going to be completely different, right? Like we measure innovation right now. I used to be part of a dot-com incubator, like I said. Back then, we used to say that innovation happened in dog years. In a single calendar year, you had 7 leapfrogs of innovation. Today, the velocity is so much faster, I have to find some other mammal to say that what it is. What replicates or leapfrogs that much quicker? Because it's happening on a weekly basis now. And so no one has the answer. We're all figuring it out. So the best way is to do #BetterTogether. And we already have an ecosystem and a community. And we're the one ecosystem in any zip code that is diverse. If you have a lawyers association, it's all lawyers. If you have plumbers, it's all plumbers. We're the only thing that has everything in it. We're not taking advantage of it. And so that would be the thing. Like, how do you encourage that to be the hook, the tip of the sword? And that would then introduce, oh, you actually have a worldview of biblical truth and stewardship of how you actually do this stuff. That's the way to get in the door. That's a great question to end with.
Hey, thank you, Kenny. Can we give Kenny a real